Are we on? Hey everybody, welcome to the Edges Facebook page's #1 show at this particular time. 3 to 5 things we didn't have time to talk about today. I am your host, Fred Kennedy. I'd like to thank our wonderful sponsor, Corey's Clothiers, at 569 Danforth Avenue. Where did I get this t-shirt that has buttons on it? Well, I got it at Corey's Clothiers, 569 Danforth Avenue. You know, listen, my wife actually was saying this morning. I put on these shorts. Can we look at these shorts? They're not stained. That's actually, I was putting like chemicals in the pool and I splashed bleach on myself, or chlorine, and it bleached my clothes. And so I put on these shorts and then I put on a nice t-shirt. And my wife goes, "You can't wear blue with gray and black shorts." And I'm like, "What? You've got to wear a light colored shirt." And so I put this on and then I put on, she goes, "You should get a whole bunch of shirts that are just like that, but in varying colors so you can wear them all the time. It's a shirt, but it's not dressy. It's not, hey, people on the beach. Ha ha, you're getting rained on. Ah. Let's move along though. Let's focus. You can get this shirt. It's a Benton. Corey's Clothiers, 569 Danforth Avenue. Let's talk about some hard-hitting news, shall we? Game of Thrones hacked. That's right. HBO got hacked. Over 100 terabytes of data was allegedly stolen from their servers by a various hacker conglomerate. Apparently, the rest of the season of Game of Thrones was amongst the things that were stolen. Shocking. I know, right? What's also shocking is, in an era where all kinds of things are being hacked and stolen, like Netflix had all kinds of episodes of Orange is the New Black stolen, why don't you just not put the shows on computers connected to the internet? Just do that. Just unplug. That's what I do. I do a little backup on a terabyte drive, and I unplug it. And then all my data, if my computer got hacked and destroyed, I'd still have it all. It would be okay. Now, the thing is that despite all of HackerMan's best efforts to leak all the... And by the way, that's not the real HackerMan. The real HackerMan is from a movie on Netflix. Oh, man, I'm ruining my own joke. Kung Fury, the movie. That's not HackerMan. That's the other show with Remy Malek with Mr. Robot. But I appreciate the Photoshoppery. It's good work. But let's move on. I don't actually think that anything did get stolen. And if any leaks do show up online, I'm just going to assume they're wrong, because the creators of Game of Thrones have been very big on posting as many spoilers and fake spoilers as possible. And the idea is to create white noise so nobody pays attention to the actual spoilers and leaks that could potentially be out there. During the Second World War, this was a strategy that the Allies were doing a lot of. They had an ability they cracked the Enigma code, okay? They cracked the code that the Nazis were using. But they couldn't let on that they'd cracked the code or they'd switch to another one. So what they ended up doing was creating all kinds of evidence to make it look like they just happened to be at the right place at the right time a lot of different times. There was even a case where they let an entire village get bombed rather than let the Nazis know that they'd cracked the code. There's a great book about it called Cryptonomicon. You should definitely give it. It's a really good book. It's a good book. It's all about cryptozoology and all that stuff. But yes, will those leaks be out there? I don't know. But I will say this. What I love about Game of Thrones is that it's appointment tuning. It is event television is the term. And I know that everybody loves to just be able to sit down and binge things, but there is like a communal nature to appointment tuning that I woefully miss. I remember when Battlestar Galactica was wrapping up as a series, me and my friends would get together every Friday night and we would watch the show. During commercial breaks, we'd yell and get all yelly and all that stuff about the things that were happening. And it's just a cool thing to be able to like watch something and the next day be like, "Oh my God, did you see it? That was so cool." Whereas, "Oh, the whole series is on. Did you have time to watch it?" "No, I did." "Well, I watched every episode." "Oh, good for you." No friggin' kids or day job, you jerk. Let's move on though. Okay, let's talk about HBO specifically. First of all, if that leak did happen, I'm disappointed in HBO's inability to foresee something like that happening. But secondly, I'm not that surprised that they made another dumb move, because they've got that show Confederate. And they announced this like 2 weeks ago during Comic-Con in San Diego. And since then, it's gone on to become this ridiculously overblown, anger-inducing thing. April Reign. Now, April Reign is the same lady who started the Oscars So White thing a few years ago when there was like nobody of color that was nominated for any Oscars other than white people. Does that make sense? I screwed up that sentence. There was only white people nominated for Oscars. That's the simpler way of saying that. So she started the hashtag Oscars So White, and she just started a new hashtag campaign called No Confederate. Now, I totally understand. I get her anger about this whole thing because it's not even that the idea as we know it, what we know, is pretty, really? Now is the time you're going to do that show? But it's also made worse by David Baronoff and D.B. Weiss being the two people presented with this idea. So let's set the stage. You've got a world that is very touchy about racial issues right now, and you send two white guys up on stage to talk about how they've got a new show where black people are still slaves. Nobody thought, maybe this isn't the right way to execute this show reveal. But since then, it's been blown into a million different horrible directions. I saw one article that was just talking about how the only reason this show got released was because it's two white people that are trying to create it, and white people can get any show that they want to do made. Maybe it also has something to do with these two guys produced the most successful show HBO has ever had. Maybe that also played a factor in it, not just their skin color, okay? Saw another now this was really cool. There's a website called The Root that deals with lots of Afrocentric issues. And I'm stealing that phrase from something on the website. And one of the writers there was giving these guys the benefit of the doubt, saying that they're going to do probably a really well-nuanced show, and he has faith that they'll hire a lot of people of color to be involved behind the scenes in production, in writing, in directing, and all that stuff. But he had a really cool show idea about the bubonic plague, and his idea for the show was that what if in Europe the bubonic plague wiped out 90% of the people there, and it paved the way for an African invasion of Europe. And all of the white people in Europe got enslaved by Africans, and it was all about white slavery instead of black slavery. And I thought the idea was cool, but I think the reason that show will never happen is because you're never going to get white people producing a show where every black person on the show is bad. That's not going to happen because white people are terrified about being looked at as racist, which is why I'm so shocked that they had a group of people from a studio that were dumb enough to let two white guys go on stage and announce a show that was all about slavery. Why don't you wait until they've hired all these people of color to be involved in the show and then go up on stage with everybody as a group and then announce the show? Just hold off on it for like a few months until you got all your ducks in a row, until you can actually put something of substance out there instead of two white guys going, well, we made a show all about slavery. Isn't that great? Now is not the time, guys. Not the time. Let's move on. If you're sleeping too much, you're going to have more nightmares. This is a study that came out of Oxford that was a massive study with biologists and psychologists and neurologists, a lot of ists, and they were saying that people that sleep more than 8 hours a day on average have a lot more nightmares. Oh, God, that's friggin' creepy. Than people that don't. Don't just stay on the scary picture for a second. Now go to this person. Good. You know what? If you sleep more than 8 hours a day, I don't care if you have nightmares, because I'm tired all the goddamn time. I get maybe 7 hours of sleep a night. I don't care if you're having nightmares. Sleep less. Be more active. Do things. Get out there and have an exciting life. Oh, I'm sleeping so much, I'm having nightmares. Yeah, your life is really hard. Your life is so hard, you're getting 12 hours of sleep a night. Oh, that is a champagne issue, buddy. Move on. Hash it out. Let's talk about another. We're talking about a lot of TV today. We're dealing with a lot of TV issues. Television show 13 Reasons Why from Netflix has sparked an alarming issue. Apparently, since that show was released, the same people that watched the show on Netflix have a much higher than average rate of doing searches for things like suicide on the internet. Teenagers go and look at them all there, probably looking about suicide on their phones while at a park. Seems like a weird place, you know? You're at the park, having some candy corn, maybe some funnel cake, maybe feeling a little bit nauseous, and then you're doing a Google search for suicide. Not very cool. Not very cool. But this is what really bothers me about this. The people are saying that it's dangerous to families. It's dangerous to families. No, it's not dangerous to families. If anything, it's a catalyst for you to actually sit down and have a conversation about a serious issue with your kid. If you know your kid is watching a show like 13 Reasons Why, even if you hear that children that are your kid's age are watching that show, maybe it's time for you to sit down and have a conversation about mental health with your kids. There's nothing more annoying than people that overly shelter their children to the point they have no understanding of real world issues. Sit down. Talk to your kid. If you're concerned, start a dialogue. You know what I always think of when I think of family dialogues? My father making coffee. Because my dad liked coffee, but he never made coffee at home. The only time he made coffee at home was when we would have our family meetings. We'd all sit down as a family in the living room and discuss family issues. Your uncle just died of AIDS. Let's talk about the AIDS epidemic and HIV and homosexuality. Sure, Dad. Now that will always the smell of coffee reminds me of AIDS, is what I'm trying to... That's a true story, by the way. I had an uncle who was homosexual and he died of AIDS right here in Toronto. That's why I really think that pride is a very important thing, because it sparks a conversation and it creates an environment where people feel comfortable to talk about things like sexual orientation. And if it takes a television show on Netflix to get you to actually sit down and talk to your kid about something more than fart jokes, then it's a good thing. Talk to your kids about everything. Get to know them. They're more than just your kids. They're actual people. So sit down and talk to them about important things, like the show Confederate. Confederacy? No Confederate. Talk to them about No Confederate. What? You're not going to talk to your kids about the Civil War?
Isn't No Confederate the hashtag?
No Confederate is the hashtag. Talk to them about hashtags. It's very issues, okay? Talk to your kids. Moving on. This is my new favorite story. We talk about a lot of serious things. Let's talk about something that's not so serious, but is still kind of serious. I was reading about, in my opinion, the greatest robbery I've ever heard of in my life. It took place in Holland. There was a truck loaded with over $2 million worth of iPhone accessories and iPhones headed to the Apple Store. And these guys that were a part of an organized crime syndicate from Romania had a specially modified pickup truck with a ramp, and they drove up behind the semi-trailer, standing on it, snapped the lock from the semi, rolled up the gate, climbed inside, and started taking stock out of the semi-trailer and putting it in the back of their truck on a highway, driving at speeds of over 100 kilometers an hour. That is amazing. We never get traffic reports like that here at the station. Ever. Ever. Oh, there's a stall on the QEW 40 rebound. No, man. No, it's like, oh, there's a robbery in progress in the back of a semi-trailer involving $500 million worth of Apple products. That's how much was stolen out of the back of this truck. They've since been arrested. 3 of them are still on the lam. But you know what? When you work hard enough at something, maybe in the end you actually deserve it. Except for the kids that are working 12 hours a day, that are doped up on speed so they can work longer hours. They don't deserve any of the phones that we're making. Only us here in North America deserves the phone. Let's all take out these phones that were made by children and start texting about how woke we are to each other. Thanks, kids. You made it possible for me to tell the world how progressive I am.